Welcome. No, cut that. Welcome to PlatformCon 2024, day one. And if you have attended the live kickoff that my future self is going to host in a couple of days, well, you've already heard that. But here's is it again another welcome from my past self when you watch this. So today I want to talk about a super important question that I get across events when I attend them, community, social media, and so on, which is very fair question when we talk about platform engineering, which is how can I become one? How can I do platform engineering? How can I become part of a platform team? To which I normally say it's easy. Just cross over your DevOps engineer title on LinkedIn, put platform on top, and off you go. But the reality is, it ain't that easy, right? And I want to spend some time today to talk about platform engineering broadly, right? Like, why are we even talking about people wanting to become one? What is it? And then actually, hopefully, share some helpful guidelines on how to think about becoming a platform engineer, as well as some helpful resources. So let's get started. I want to start with just a brief overview on what does it mean. It's day one of PlatformCon, so let's just do a quick refresher on what is platform engineering. Well, platform engineering is defined as the discipline of taking all the tech and tools that are floating around in your enterprise engineer organization today and binding them into golden paths, right? That abstract the complexity away from developers and reduce cognitive load on these individual contributors that are interacting with your setup, right? Whether it's an on-prem setup, cloud setup, hybrid setup, right? Platform engineering takes care of all of that. Okay. Now, the sum of these golden paths is what we call an internal developer platform, or IDP for short. Here you see somebody very creepingly looking at that because I have my animation in the wrong order. But what you see in the center of your screen is an internal developer platform reference architecture for a multi-cloud setup. In this case, we have AWS and GCP. And you see you have 5 different planes. That's what we normally define an enterprise level internal developer platform to be composed of. So you have a developer control plane, which is effectively the front end of your platform, is where you have stuff like portals. That's what developers use to access the capabilities of the platform. You have an integration and delivery plane, which is kind of the backend of your platform. You have monitoring and logging, security, and the infrastructure. And and here's the beautiful animation for you now. Um, this IDP is the end product of a platform engineering team. Okay, great. So now, why do so many people care? Why do so many people ask, how can I become a platform engineer? Well, because platform engineering has been taking the industry, the software engineering world by storm, literally, in the last 2 or 3 years. You can see here when it started going vertical in 2021, um, people like Gartner, very established analysts, have added it to their hype cycle for software engineering, both in 23 and 24. They also added it to the top strategic trends to watch out for, both in 23 and 24. Our community, right? This very conference that you're attending now has been exploding over the last couple of years, right? If you just look at how many people followed PlatformCon in 2022, this is about 7,000. We're expecting around 50,000 this week, right? So it's quite crazy. And whether you're looking at Slack or YouTube or any other community destination platform weekly, the newsletter has now 40,000 subscribers. Or if you just look at the talk submissions, right? That basically, you can just see it multiplying and compounding year over year. So that is another reason why so many people are paying attention and why they care. And I just want to be very clear, this is not just hype. This has very real impact on people's careers and people's lives. You can see here the averages that the community survey that we ran about a few months ago. So this data is very fresh. on platform engineering versus DevOps average salaries, right? And you can see here there's a pretty steep difference, both in Europe and the US, in terms of how much money you can make, right? So that's like a 42 and between a 20 and a 40% increase on average for platform engineer versus DevOps engineer. Okay. So one more reason to, I think, go into platform engineering. You shouldn't do it for the money, but obviously that helps. So how do you actually get started? And again, it's not about just crossing over, right, DevOps and platform. That's actually what a lot of people do, right? They have been cloud ops engineer, DevOps engineer, and so on, and they just cross over and call themselves platform engineer. And while that's not necessarily a big sin, because it might be that you've actually have already been doing platform engineering, even though it wasn't called like that in the last 5 years or so, wasn't all the rage. So you were just a DevOps engineer or whatever that was doing platform engineering. Well, then in that case, that's fine. But in the vast majority of cases that I see, at least, DevOps engineer were doing different things. Cloud infrastructure engineers were doing different things. They were not doing platform engineering. Now they're just rebranding, either because it's the latest hot thing or because it was top down imposed and like, hey, now we're doing platform engineering. The VP said that, so now we're called a platform team, right? And the problem with that is it oftentimes comes with the best intentions, but you end up building a platform that is not really serving developers, which is the whole point of platform engineering. We've seen it earlier, right? It's really about abstracting the complexity and reducing the cognitive load for developers ultimately. But the platform ends up being something that serves the old DevOps engineers, the old infrastructure engineers, not developers, and that is a platform that is not extremely useful and certainly doesn't address the pain points that a platform engineering initiative is supposed to solve in the first place. And so if we double click on that, right, the key difference here is it's not just about tech and tools, it's about tech, tools, and culture. This is super, super important. Platform engineering is frankly way more about culture and transforming organizations than about picking the right tech stack, right? This is something that happens over and over again in my experience. You speak with people, especially new platform teams, right? Because people that have been through a couple of platform rollouts, they know this already, right? But first time platform engineers, especially or people that don't have a lot of experience, they'll tell you, they'll ask you all these questions, and I'm so worried. Should I pick this tech stack over here or this tech stack over there? And the reality is, it matters to an extent, and certainly you shouldn't, build everything yourself and reinvent the wheel, and a lot of other things that we talk about in other videos and in other talks this week. But the important thing is that you need to understand that platform engineering is an org transformation, right? It touches uh, a lot of different parts of your organization. It changes a lot of the ways that people are used to work, and so that's how you need to treat it, right? And so that is why my second point, because why start from the first one, is so important. Communication, right? As a platform engineer, if you plotted, let's say, sysadmin and DevOps and cloud ops and platform engineer, whatever, on kind of on a curve where you have time on the x-axis and you have communication skills on the y-axis, right? You would have a very kind of linear, up into the right type of curve, because over time this role has had to become a better and better communicator. And especially when you get to platform engineering, this is really where you have to be able to and you have to be comfortable, speaking with executives and speaking their language, speaking with application developers and understanding what are their challenges, speaking with existing infrastructure and operations teams, speaking with security teams, right? Everybody has their own agenda, their own interests, and you need to mediate between all of those key stakeholder groups in when you're building your platform, right? And the way you build your platform is, first point, platform as a product, right? So you want to make sure that you are shipping a first minimum viable platform, and you keep iterating from there. You keep building this very tight feedback loop, especially with application developers who are ultimately your key end users, and that you really listen to them, right? And that you keep iterating and that you solve real problems for them, right? The other key difference, if you think about it, DevOps is really about solving problems for individuals, for teams. It's about teaching them, hey, there's this new piece of infrastructure. This is how we use it. Platform engineering, again, is about solving org level problems, right? Obviously individual and team problems as well, but really is kind of like building up into solving org level problems and ultimately affecting the big things that everybody cares about, from developer experience and developer self-service and satisfaction all the way to time to market, right? It's this big things that are impacted. DevOps is about optimizing infrastructure, whereas platform engineering is about commoditizing infrastructure. And I hope I said that right. But it's really about, right, effectively creating, from the infrastructure platform engineering perspective, especially creating this almost vending machine, right, for infrastructure where developers can self-serve with no waiting times, no friction in between the different teams, right? And then finally, platform engineering hopefully is really about more meaningful work on both sides of the equation, right? It's about doing real DevOps, right? True DevOps at scale with very complex setups when you have hundreds or thousands of people involved, right? And it actually lets you build it, it lets you do you build it, you run it, lets you do all the things that kind of DevOps promises, but that can't really deliver at scale, right? If you are 10, 15 people doing DevOps and everybody's very familiar with your different scripts and so on, that's fine. You can't expect, engineer number 300 that you're hiring to be familiar with your very complex tool chain end to end, and to be able to self-serve things. And you'll have all these frictions and all these issues. That's what platform engineering is about removing that frustration in the system, and is about making everyone's work better, right? So that's just what it means to do platform engineering and be a platform engineer. And these are the key questions that you should ask yourself, right? While you dive into those different parts, is how do you do user research to figure out these real pain points, right? How do you build that feedback loop between developers and platform teams? How do you design golden paths that application developers will actually use and love, right? And that is very, very tightly tied to the third question, which is missing an H, but is also how do you define the right level of obstruction, right, versus context? Because, and this is not a beautiful animation that I forgot about, but it's about building golden paths, right? Not golden cages. This is super super important, right? How will you market then the platform to all the relevant stakeholders? That's what we talked about, right? You need to be very savvy when it comes to effectively internal selling and internal marketing. You can almost think about the engineer organization as your total addressable market, right? And your platform as the product. And that's why you have an MVP. That's why you need a rollout plan. That's why you need all these things, right? It's super, super important. And in fact, in very large organizations, you can even see cases of competing platform initiatives. They're literally not just competing products, but you also have competing go-to-market effectively, right? Competing rollout strategies. And the most successful one here is minimum viable platform. We're talking about it in other talks throughout the week. But so these are all the questions that you need to ask yourself to understand, okay, what are the problems I'm solving, and how can I do it the best way, and how can I get adoption, right, for my platform, because that's all that matters. Okay, great. So a few resources that I wanted to share with you. First of all, start with the OG, internaldeveloperplatform.org. There's some really nice Kelsey Hightower, who's also an amazing speaker of the conference this week, quotes and tweets in there, and really some of the key kind of principles. This was one of the OG sort of websites in the space. Team Topology, other OG, by Matthew and Manuel Pais. Manuel is also giving a talk, I believe today or throughout any other day of the week. this is, really, these guys were some of the first ones to really start explaining and thinking about, okay, how do all these teams interact with one another, and what does it mean to be a platform team. We have then platformengineer.org. We have the YouTube channel that you might be watching this on if you're not on the platformcon.com website. And there we have a platform engineering one-on-one series where we go through this kind of key concepts. I recommend the maturity model as well if you're a little bit more advanced, by the CNCF working group. It's a very good way of thinking about how mature your platform engineering initiative is. And then finally, and this is a big announcement that the community that we released in the community last week, which is the first ever official platform engineering fundamentals course. This is part one of three, where we're going to have another course, and then the third part is actually going to be a certification, so an exam that you're going to take. In the first course, we focus on the platform engineering fundamentals. This is all the key concepts. We're going to work hands-on on the reference architectures that you've seen earlier, on the key kind of concepts and blueprints that are really, really important for people to get started. And you're going to come out of this not just with all the theory and the key concepts, but with an actual hands-on experience and having built an actual internal developer platform yourself throughout the course. So this is an 8 weeks cohort based, right? So it's everything is live. This is not your typical course where you just get like a link to a recording like this one. There's no recording. It's live. It's tasks every week, and we work throughout it together. So I'm very excited about that. We put a lot of work into that one. So hopefully you will join us and you'll enjoy us. You'll enjoy it. And in general, come say hi. Share your platform engineering journey in the Slack. We have 20,000, 22,000 people in there. It's pretty crazy. And so, yeah, come ask your questions, come join us, and I'll see you there. Or hopefully, I'll see you in the course if you want to get started to become a platform engineer. See you there.